Alrighty guys, I am back with another tutorial. This time I was asked to do a PSP tutorial to make your games, your legally obtained ISOs from your PSPs into package files that you can play on your PS3. There are two ways to do this. If you don't want to make a package file, you can just take these ISOs that you have legally obtained by ripping them from your PSP games, and whatever they were called, UMDs, UMB, I don't remember, but the little mini discs, I'm going to refer them as mini discs. You can either just take these ISOs directly and put them on a FAT32 formatted flash drive, which all of your PSP ISOs should easily fit onto a FAT32 flash drive. They are all under 4 gigabytes, which is the limit for FAT32 format. I think the highest data game that I have is on Crisis Core. It's almost a gig. So these mini discs didn't hold a lot, so they pretty much just kind of stuffed as much data as they could into these games. And some of the PSP games are literally just PS1 games that they ported over. Like Valkyrie Profile is a PS1 game that got ported over to PSP. That is where I had my copy. I unfortunately never owned the PS1 copy. I do know that they did some stuff here. However, we're not going to go into that. I will go into how to get these ISOs onto your flash drive and then also onto your PS3. Same thing with the packages. Once we're done here, we will go over to the PS3 and we will do all that stuff. So I will have a Google Drive link to the two software programs that I use or was using in testing. However, for some reason lately, I have been having issues with this left one called PSP to PS3 B22. It keeps saying that I need to patch my games. However, my games are already patched. I patched them a long time ago. So I won't be using this PSP to PS3 B22. I will make it available though. So in this, if you see right here, this is the whole file set. So the PS2 to PS3, if you want to use that one, it's right here. It's just PSP to PS3.exe. And then this is the one that I am going to be using right here. It's called PS3 Minis. It's made by Aldo's Tools. He also made PS2 GUI and stuff. So I'm a little bit more familiar with that one, and I actually like it a little better. Some of the issues is that some of these files, when I did go to try and find this PS3 Minis tool, either the links weren't available, they were missing files, all sorts of stuff. So I condensed all of the stuff that I did need to go and hunt and search for and find, and I put it into one file here and then zipped it and then put it on Google Drive, and I'll put that link up there. So what we have here is kind of all these files, and then if you click this PS3 Minis exe, it'll pop up this. So I'm actually going to close this one because I'm not going to be using that one. Alright, so we'll go back to our PS3 Minis. The one thing I do recommend is if you do use one of these, if you use either one of these programs, PS3 Minis or the PS3 PSP B22, don't run them at the same time, because you'll have an issue where it will make them into package files. However, either one of these won't be playable, or it'll create a package file of whichever one essentially started the operation first. So if you started so I made earlier, a couple days ago when I was actually testing all this stuff out, I created a package for Jeanne d'Arc. I will go show some when I do get back to my PS3 how it loads up and everything, but it created just fine. However, the operation for the left one, the PS3 PSP B22, started first. So when I tried to make a War of the Lions copy at the same time, it used it said War of the Lions instead of Valkyrie profile here. It said War of the Lions and had all the pictures and everything. However, it created a duplicate John d'Arc package file. So when I put that Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions package file on my PS3, it was just another John d'Arc file, even though it had this picture and it said that it was Final Fantasy Tactics. So just don't really mess with that. Just use one at a time, because I do believe they run on the same operations, so they're running at the same time. So you're ended up gonna messing some stuff up here. So once you have your selected legally obtained ISO, it's also, I forgot to mention, the one thing that is not included in the zip file that I do have the Google Drive for is this results folder. For whatever reason, it does not want to add what it considers an empty directory to the zip file. So once you download the whole zip file and get all these tools and everything, you're just going to have to create new folder here. And when you create new folder, you can just type in results exactly like it is here. And that's where all of your games, your packaged games, will be created for the pspminis.exe here. And then you can easily just open that and then pull out all of your games and put them onto your FAT32 flash drive. But so we will start here. So once you are ready, you can click options, and it'll ask you what the option is. It a PSP Mini, which I've never owned a PSP Mini. I do know that some of the games do have PSP Mini options, but you're probably going to want to use this PSP Remaster, because 99% of the games, well, all of the games that I owned, and I know like 99% of the PSP games out there are PSP remasters. You don't really need to do any of these options here, other than, you can change the icon and background if you wish. That's what it'll show here. It'll automatically change this for you. If you don't, then it'll obviously have the PSP basic stuff. I don't use this. I've never had to sign it, so that's not an issue here. I've never had to add a save to fix the package. But if you do create this package file and you notice that, again, it says enable to fix saving issues on certain games. Some games don't save properly, so you will have to click this if you just restart the package making process. So you can also do this too if you really don't care about it going into the results folder. You can just not click that. However, if this option is not clicked, it will go into the results. So I'm just going to click that. So it'll instead go right here, wherever you pulled your file from, which is where my Valkyrie profile here is. It'll go directly there. So then show the output file. This will open up this again. I can probably deselect this, but I'll leave it up just so that you can tell when it's finished, so you don't have to have all of these open. Also, if you hover over all of this options, it will tell you exactly what it is. So like if you want to compress it, again, like I said, warning, it may have issues of black screens. This right here, for some reason, doesn't have one. So like I said, I've never had to use it. If you know what the donor.pbp is, you can use that. However, I have not ever used it and never had a game that needed it, in my opinion, so we should be good. Just make sure you are not clicking the wrong one of these, and because it will not run properly if you click a PSP remaster for a PSP Mini, or if you click a PSP Mini for a PSP remaster, which the remasters are just the normal PSP games. So then we'll hit convert here, and just kind of like Aldo's Tools, or the PSP GUI that was created by Aldo's Tools, because this is also Aldo's Tools. it'll start converting your PSP game here into the necessary package file. Pulls up right here the disk ID, which is the config file, quote unquote, that it's going to use. Just like in PS2 GUI, except it's a little bit more intuitive, that you don't actually have to try and find it or click through it and find out all those files, because if you look down in here in the tools option in that file down here that I will be including, it has a ton of the games already added in there. If your game isn't in there, I personally would just you'd probably have to try and hopefully maybe see if Aldo's Tools has a PSP version of the Aldo's Tools config files for PS2. But like I said, I've never had to use that. So it's just, like I said, it just automatically converts it up here. And since these games are pretty small, it shouldn't take too long. I do know that the other one, for some reason, the PSP to PS3 B22 takes forever. It took considerably longer to create a package file than this PS3 minis here. And if you just saw that too, it said not responding. Don't worry about the not responding part. It's doing its job. Just like in my previous videos, how Pop FE or PS2 GUI will sometimes say not responding. Do not worry. It is responding. It's just, again, trying to turn these ISO files into the package file. Just don't exit out. Don't click anything. Just let it do its thing. And we'll be right back once this file is done being made into a package. Okay, so now, as I said, it hasn't created your package yet. This is the first process that it condenses all the files down. And it says, it'll come down here and say, again, press make package to continue. So you'll just, again, start creating the package. And now this is when it will be doing all of the heavy lifting to pack all your files together, add an SD card, quote unquote SD card, as your memory card, because if you guys remember, PSPs used an SD card that you had to get instead of a memory card. And here we go, it pops up all of your information now. It's bootable, it's exportable, what the version is. Just letting you know that this is using informal options. Just make sure that you know what you're doing here. Again, if you have these legally obtained ISOs, you should not be having any issues. Now we come back, and this little taskbar up here will show you what's going on. Since these are pretty small, like I said, I think Valkyrie profile is 600 megabytes. The Sims is like 400 to 600 megabytes. The biggest game that I have is probably Crisis Core and Dissidia. These two are not even a gig, honestly. So you can put them on your you will not have to use FTP for these. You can, if you so choose, say you don't have a FAT32 formatted drive. You probably do, because you probably installed custom firmware or hen with your FAT32. So you probably have that option. You can just put it as I have it in this left-hand corner. I'll show you guys how to drag and drop and do all that stuff, and then we'll take it to the PS3 once it's done. But this one shouldn't take too long. However, if you do use the other one, which personally I don't recommend, just use the PS3 minis. But if you use the other one, the PS2 to PS3 B22, it'll pretty much do the same thing. Again, I don't recommend using it because I really don't like that one as much. I've never had an issue with Aldo's Tools, so I just keep using that one. But yeah, since these are all under 4 gigabytes, easily just drag and drop into a file down here. So we'll open this file real quick down here. Make sure you do have a folder with all caps PSP PSP, no dots, PSP ISO. This is where you're going to put all of your PSP either ISOs, or the package files. Well, you shouldn't be putting the package files in here. So there we go. It's actually already done. See how quickly? You can do this however you want. It'll ask you to rename it. So all this will show up if you leave it. So just kind of rename it however you wish. You don't have to have remaster or anything. I'll leave the remaster here, because just so in case you messed up and it was a minis, you'll know that, okay, I messed up here, and you can just delete this package and redo it. And then we just hit save here. I'm going to be making a couple here, and then again you see that it copied and transferred and whatever. So we'll go back to, see right here, it goes right here and it says this is my package file. So we can close that. Let's go to our next one, and we will be doing, let's do Dissidia, because I did already have a package for Crisis Core, John d'Arc, and War of the Lions. I used all of those to practice and figure all my stuff out. And boom, here we go, same thing. It just brings up Dissidia, Final Fantasy PSP. It doesn't always give you the full name. Like I said, some of these, it just kind of, since these names are kind of long, it'll just Dissidia Final Fantasy, because that's pretty much what Duodenium is. But again, same thing. Just click options, make sure everything is correct here. Everything looked good to me, and we'll hit convert. And it says that it was not found, so it's probably because it hasn't been signed. So we'll just enable the signing of the e-boot, and this should fix the issue that this game might have. When I had to do it for Crisis Core right there, that is also the good option. If it does need to be signed, it will let you know. So if, like I said, that option that was clicked to sign e-boot, it'll automatically let you know, and you just click yes. Unless for some reason it doesn't need to be, then you can click no or more options. But normally, like I said, these tools are pretty self-sufficient, and unless you're having some kind of issues, I do know that I was told that some people have been having crashes in PS2 GUI. Some people have issues where the packages don't get created. The encryptions are fine. You can encrypt them perfectly, but for some reason, from taking those encrypted PS2 games on PS2 GUI to make it into a package, it just doesn't work. However, with this one, since you don't need to encrypt them, since they're smaller games and they're done a little differently than PS2 games are, the ISO files are perfectly fine. This is pretty much the like I said, disk ID and stuff from the previous, the previous one. You won't really have to worry too much about any of that, unless you do notice that for some reason, say you have your disk ID here, that it is not an ULUS10566 config file, disk ID, and it's instead of maybe like a ULPM11255. I'm just throwing numbers out there and stuff, because I know a lot of the files follow UL or UP or UMS, stuff like that, just like the PS2 config files. If you do notice this, then you are going to have to change that ID in the previous options. However, I've never had to do it, and like I said, all three of the games that I did test it out with, they work perfectly fine. Just be careful with some of your PSP games. I'll say that right now, since we're just watching this work and do it thing. Some PSP games do need to be patched. They have some, you may have been able to rip them perfectly fine. However, some of them have extra layers of protection, or when you rip them, there's graphical or visual, graphical already, I said visual, so sound issues. So like Crysis Core, for instance, when I ripped it, it didn't work, because the voice files weren't working properly when you rip them off of the mini disc. So you may have to find an online patcher to do that kind of stuff. I am not sure. Again, like I said, I patched Crysis Core and some of these games years and years and years and years and years and years ago, because I started ripping some of these games when I was like a teenager, because I had modified my PSP very early and started dumping them so that if I ever did lose my PSP, I would be able to get a new one, modify it, and if I had a Vita or something that doesn't take those little UMBs, whatever, the mini discs, I could just put them on my SD card and play them that way, because I own the game. I legally ripped them from my own copy of the game. Why am I not allowed to play it? So as you can see now, it's dumping the ISO. It's creating an ISO.bin, which is similar to the PS2, the ISO.bin.enc. So it's, again, like I said, this is doing the heavy lifting. This one, since it's a little bit bigger than Valkyrie profile here, Valkyrie profile, again, 600 megabytes versus Dissidia and Crysis Core are almost a gig. It's going to take a little longer. It does say that the ISO size is only 1,693 megabytes. That's not always correct. However, we'll be back once it's done, and we'll go back to that the same process I just showed you with the last one. All right, we're back. So that only took maybe 3 or 4 minutes. However, I'm not gonna sit there and show you the entire process and waste another 3-4 minutes of your time. This is already about 20 minutes. So again, we just go to create package, let it do its thing. I'm going to show you again kind of the startup. If you've used PS2 GUI, you know pretty much what's going to pop up, or if, again, you've seen what I'm doing here, it's essentially just compiling all the data, making sure all of the files are where they need to be, making sure the ISO.bin is good, making sure it can actually add a memory card, an SD card, because whenever you make a package file, it will automatically add a memory card, or it should, because otherwise you won't be able to save these games properly, because they don't essentially use a memory card on your PS3. The package making process packs them all together, and see, there we go. It's just essentially telling you, again, making sure that all of the data is being packed. Let's see, I think for me, Crysis Core took, let me see, how long did it take? It took about 20-25 minutes or less, but I was also trying to, like I said, run multiple programs at the same time, with the other program working at the same time, creating 2 packages and all that other stuff that I warned you not to do, because I do know that you can use PopFE and PS2 Classic GUI at the same time, because they're pulling different files, they're doing different things at the same time. However, again, like I said, avoid using both. Just use one. PS3 Minis has had no issue for me here. I seem to like the Aldo's Tools stuff way better. They just always seem to work for me. However, like I said, for some of you guys, you may have an issue with this one. But if you go into the other file that I am including, you can literally just use the other one. But like I said, we're pretty much a quarter of the way here, so we'll be back once this is done, and then I will do one more package file for the Sims pets that I have, the Sims 2 pets. And then we'll go to our PS3 and start adding package files. And I will also show you the playing the ISOs off of your custom firmware or hen enabled PS3. Alright, we are back here. Dissidia probably took about 15-20 minutes. So we're going to save that just like we always do. Takes a couple seconds to do that right here. And then we will go to our next one. Since that process is pretty quick, we can close that. It just makes sure, yep, we got both the ISO and that in there. For some reason, I'm gonna close that. I don't know why I opened two of them, even though I only had one. So, all right, open file. Go back to our PSP. We'll go to Sims, and then we'll do our Sims now. And then same thing, just wait for it to pop up. I don't know why it does this. I do believe, yep, you can do all of this. If you want to do customs, you can save this image, paste this image, says the default image, whatever. Again, and if you for some reason see it has a content ID, if it doesn't have that, you can always add that. Let's edit this title name because for some reason it always loves to when it's the. A lot of games with the in it, for some reason, it goes other game name, the blah blah blah, whatever the name of the game was. So then we click OK, and then since all those options look good to me, we can just click our options. Same thing, everything looks good. We'll convert it, and let's see if it does the same thing that it did with Dissidia. I don't think it will. Sims is a much smaller game too. Honestly, like I said, I only think that it's like 400 or 500 megabytes, which should be fine. And then again, I don't want to waste your guys' time, so we'll be right back. Alrighty, so we are all done here. Again, since I clicked that option, now with all the other ones, I can just save it to that file here. Let it completely transfer over. The process is finished. We can close that, however, I don't want to close that just yet. We will take this, move this over. I already have my FAT32 flash drive added here. Use that to cover everything. Alright, so now what we did is we did right here. We'll take Valkyrie profile, and since this is just this, I would also recommend, do not always just assume that your package is going to work. Just like some PS2 games, they do not work as a package file, a .pkg. The ISOs, some games don't work as an ISO, so I always test them both. So I always drag this in here, and then you can always come back to it. It may take a little while to copy, but I'm just gonna, see, sometimes my mouse is a little weird. So, and then we'll just pop that into the, make sure, again, same thing with all your other package files. Always just drag your package into just the main, directory of your flash drive. You don't want to put it in like an ISO file or ROMs or PS3 where your updat data and stuff is. Just always put your packages in here, and then we can just do multiple of these. Since these are small files, they really won't take that long. One of the cool things about the what's it called, when you do use this emulator that I am going to show you on what is it called here? I'm going to move that over here so I can actually see it. When you put these ISOs through, it's called the PSP Remaster. I actually have it right here. It's the PSP Remaster Launcher PKG. You get, like I said, you can find it on oh my lord, why am I blinking? Like Brewology, PSX Place will sometimes have links to that kind of stuff. So if you ever need to, you can just find that. There are other ones, but I really do just like this PSP remaster that you can find on Brewology. And again, PSX Place. They should be the same one. I have two just in case. But they are literally the same thing. So again, we'll just, always make sure that it is actually able, because if you try to scroll up during that, you will get an error. If you've ever had it during like your zip files, sometimes when you open a zip file and you try to like drag and drop it after scrolling, it'll say error, because sometimes drag and drop isn't always supported for some of those. But yeah, you see even now, because I scrolled, it's taking forever to load up and kind of froze me out. But it is copying the ISO after it's copying all of these. We'll be right back though, because it's probably going to take me 10-15 minutes to get all of these files onto where they need to be. So actually I was wrong here. Duodecium Desidia is actually a little over a gig, but again, it's and the package file will be the same amount of data, or at least it should be. You might see like a plus or minus of a few. So if you see right here, it's 1,723,000 kilobytes. But if you see my package file, it's 1,728. So about the 4,000 kilobytes comes from adding those memory cards to it. But again, it should be so minor that the data should still be, again, I'll point right here, the size should still be the same size in gigabytes. If you're doing small megabyte games, then you will see a larger difference. But yeah, so it should be the same there. All right, we are all done here. So always make sure, now that you have your stuff on your FAT32 drive, you always eject it safely. And then we're going to go to the PS3. Alrighty, so now we are back to our PS3 here. Wow, I'm actually surprised. Apparently The Sims was actually a huge file. I thought it was very small. So one of the cool things is since we're in the ISO portion of what we're going to do first here, just like the other videos, you always kind of take these, you want to copy them and then paste them in this folder. It may take a couple minutes each, or like one of them, it says it goes from 10 minutes, it goes down to 3 minutes. So I'll say this while it's downloading our first game here. One of the cool things that it does here is I did not put those PNG files in the PSP folder. I'm pretty sure it's the emulator, the PSP remasters emulator that I have on here, but when you open up or you like refresh it through like Webman Games to make them playable, it automatically gets a PNG for the game that you have there. So like the John d'Arc PNG, it shows the file with I think it's her on the front cover. The Crisis Core is just a basic one, Crisis Core, that I think came when you opened up the game disc. It says Crisis Core on it, just kind of a basic picture. And then you also get a picture for the War of the Lions one. I'll show you all of that stuff in the ISO files when it's ready to go after all of this is done. I'll also probably download one of the package files instead of all three of the package files, and show you, I'll just show all three of them working. But I tend to play a lot of my games through the ISO file type category, because the package games can take up a little more room. And like I said, I always test both just to make sure they both work, because like I said, some games might not work as an ISO or an ISO.bin.enc for PS2 stuff, or it might not work as a package file. So you've always got to test this out and try it out, unless you see the thing that I'm doing and say you do have a copy of Sims 2. You would just do the same thing and say it works as an ISO. You play as an ISO versus a package. I don't recall if I said this, but I do all of my file transfers and stuff for ISOs and all my other stuff through Multiman. I just find that one works the best for me. However, I do believe if you can also do it through Irisman, but that is up to you. Alrighty, all of my ISOs have successfully transferred. So we can honestly just close out of this and all this stuff. I like to keep this open in case anything happens, but then you could just click to your main thing here, go down to quit in Multiman. You can also use the PlayStation button. However, I find quitting this way is a little bit quicker because when you press the PlayStation button to close out through the XMB, it just takes a lot longer. And then we will always make sure, so now if you do have a hen enabled system, you will have to have hen enabled. If you have custom firmware, it doesn't really matter. First, I would highly recommend, since we did ISOs, as you can see, I do have 3 different types for PlayStation Portable, PS2, PS3, but we'll always go to Webman Setup first, and you always want to do this one, refresh Webman Games and XMB. If you refresh just Webman Games, it won't display the game list. I'm pretty sure for all package files, you do need to have your game system, your PS3, activated. I don't know if this is the same for PSP package files, but I'm almost positive that is the case. So now if we go back into Webman Games, you'll see that I now have 3 additional PlayStation games. So see, for some reason it didn't load up these PNGs here. So I know that it'll probably do this when I play them through the PSP. I also highly recommend that you sort these. If you press triangle, you can press square and group them by the content, which I highly recommend because it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. So same thing, that was my package file for Crisis Core, as you can see. We'll go into Webman Games. Let's click, for instance, let's just open Valkyrie profile first. So now it's loading it as if I was loading a disc. We come down here to PSP remasters, and then we launch it like normal. Alrighty, once it loads up, you will come up to this screen. You always want to use the PSP remaster. I have no idea what the ad hoc party is, but if you guys are more familiar with this, you might know. But always click the PSP remaster, and then it'll just kind of do that little thing, and then we'll load up here. Sometimes some of the PSP games take a little longer than other ones. I do believe when I tried to load Crisis Core, it did take a little longer, so we'll just pause it right here. And this is part of the reason why it's so important to test these games. I got black screened on 2 of them. So the Lenneth, the Valkyrie Profile Lenneth package and ISO both do not work. And the Sims right here also does not work. So I will have to reset my PS3. If you can hear, you can still hear the sound, but nothing's coming out. No video, and I know my HDMI and everything's fine, so let's reset my PS3 and we'll try doing the Sims package. Alrighty guys, so I am a complete idiot, and I will be noting this in the description. If you watch my other videos, especially for the PS2 Classics GUI, there's a very important site that you need to check first. So I completely forgot the PSP, it's called psdevwiki.com, and it's the PS3. I'll be putting the link in the video as well. But a lot of PSP games do not work. And all of the games I just tried to show you do not work. So that is completely on me. However, the 3 games I do have right now do work, which is Crisis Core, Jeanne d'Arc, and Final Fantasy Tactics. So I'm going to show you first them as a package file. So this is Crisis Core. I know this works for sure because one, I checked the dev wiki previously, and I've also been playing this every now and then, you know, just to check it and make sure. Oh, I forgot. I did not enable my hen. Or I did, actually. Hold on. I know this works because I literally played it the other day. See, so okay. Sometimes you get little issues. Again, this is why it's very important to check the PSP, PS3 dev wiki, because you will get issues like this where the game might do that, might crash, might do that, blah blah blah. For instance, on the dev wiki, The Sims Pets 2 does not work as a PSP. However, the PS2 game does work. So as I can see, we've got Crisis Core loading up right there.
Hey Zach, you seem a little on edge.
Can you blame me? All this training and no assignments, like they're hanging me out to dry. You must be pretty busy with everyone off base.
All right, just so you know, again, I did do some gameplay of this earlier, so like I said, I do know this works. So we're just going to close this real quick, and then I will show you the ISO file booting for one of the other games so that we can get this working. But yes, please, please, please don't be me and make a bunch of packages and stuff that do not work for the games. They're pretty easy to delete off your thing, but let's go to Jeanne d'Arc again. So this is for the PSP remastered, just playing the ISO file. We'll go down to, again, my PSP remastered. Open up the PSP remastered emulator app. A lot of PSP games do not work. So you do have to be very, very picky about which games you do. Like for instance, some of all of the games in R are completely unplayable. Some games were never released as a PSP, but there are PS3 versions of it. There are PS2 versions of some of these games. You just check the wiki first before you go through all of that hassle. But as you can see, as we load up here, we've got our Jeanne d'Arc ISO. This also works as a package file, so I never saved it because I just play tested it, but we'll get into gameplay since the only issue that I found with this one is that for like Jeanne d'Arc, sometimes the voices do not work. So we'll just skip ahead because this is the so like the cut screen voices won't work for this one. Again, you can find some of those issues are shown in the dev wiki. However, this game looks great, and again, no freezing, no nothing. And look at that. We'll do one more, and then I will close this game, and we will go back to the home screen. And look at that. Works great. So, yeah. Let's, you can just cancel out of this one and quit to the XMB quit game. You shouldn't have any issues. And we're back. So yeah, unfortunately you do have to be very careful with your PSP titles. However, for the most part, a lot of PS2 I'm pretty sure every single PS1 game works except for a select few that weren't released properly, I guess you could say. But yeah, just really be careful, and that's all it is for PSP games. There you go, guys. Just make sure, like I said, I will reiterate again, check the PS Dev Wiki for the PS3 emulator for the PSP. Otherwise, you will end up doing a whole bunch of work and completely wasting all of your time, and I feel like I even wasted some of your guys' time. So you're all set.